Welcome back to the Daily News Network. It's time for Business Champions. I'm Brian Sexton, and I am all by myself today. Well, in terms of my co-host, Paula Joy is on an airplane. He will be back with us next week, but I have an excellent guest and a fun show planned. So let's get right to it. Abigail Goodin joins us from New York City. How are you in the Big Apple?
I am wonderful, Brian. How are you down in Florida?
I am enjoying life. It's starting to get warm down here, so that means summer is in full swing. Tell me how things are going at Off My Hinge podcast and what you do.
Off My Hinge podcast is going wonderfully. The whole podcast kind of started by accident, actually, just to give kind of like a brief explanation of what happened. I am 24 years old, so I really experienced a lot of my youth during COVID and during the pandemic. And Gen Z, everyone kind of fell at a different point of fundamental development over the course of the pandemic. You know, I had just finished high school when the pandemic started. Other people were in high school. Other people were in college. Other people were starting their first jobs. All of these really fundamental life experiences. And I launched the podcast to look at how online dating as a space and as a platform was being oversaturated for the Gen Z market to actually learn how to socialize again, because all of those fundamental experiences were interrupted. Online dating suddenly became not just about, oh, I wonder if I could fall in love. It actually really came about, how can I learn about myself and really learn who is ready and open to socialize with me again, because I'm out of practice. So the podcast really chronicles me talking to people I went out on dates with, where nothing necessarily romantic even happened, but we learned how to become social creatures again through our interactions.
I have a hard time imagining you not being a social creature, Abigail. You have such a vivid personality. Tell me, what led you to podcasting as the engagement vehicle? I mean, there's so many different ways in today's media environment to engage people. What was it about the podcast, which is a little longer form, that drew you in as a young lady?
Right. I think podcasting, as we said before we even began the interview, is such a fundamental way to connect with people on a large scale very cheaply. In terms of reaching a wide audience and really being able to refine your subject matter, podcasting gives so much more flexibility to do that, unlike other forms of media, which was really appealing to me. I wanted to make sure that the platform was one that felt educational and accessible, but also felt highly conversational and felt like it could prompt the larger social and emotional intelligence that I was really going for in trying to just recontextualize this online dating space as one that isn't transactional. You know, having an interaction with the person is not a transaction. And I think podcasting really highlights that very well. And I think that its popularity over the past couple of years has really shown just how much viewers are craving being a part of engaging conversations.
So you used the word recontextualize, which you just wouldn't use if you weren't doing a podcast. That's the beauty of it to me. It's the communication, the language, the way that you communicate in such a broad yet very personal way that you're not going to do in a social media environment necessarily. Well done.
Thank you.
Tell me
Thank you.
about
I
creative
appreciate
strategy.
creative strategy. Right. So alongside my own podcast, as you know, we've kind of touched on, podcasting is such a fascinating space right now. And not only is it highly lucrative as a space, but it's growing so exponentially because of all of these emerging trends and abilities to actually produce podcasts of a high quality and high caliber really fantastically with AI tools and all of that. So when I talk about creative strategy in relation to Off My Hinge, Off My Hinge is the name of my podcast and the name of my production company. So I help other people who have podcasts about all different subjects I work with self-help podcasts. I work with sports podcasts. I work with even a parenting podcast. And I am essentially looking at all of these data-driven tools that we can get from social media, that we're getting from these emerging AI tools. My background is in design, so I'm also using a lot of design research methods to cultivate strategy that makes sense to build out the business brand and to build out a business identity. Podcasting is fantastic for that. That's kind of one aim of the strategy that I create. And the second part of the strategy is really looking at, okay, well, if we have the framework to, build up an identity for our business, how can we better understand the ways that our consumer likes to be communicated with? And as we had said, podcasting really is all about refining how you choose to communicate with your audience and becoming really specific about that messaging. And so that's really what my creative strategy is rooted in. Working out how you can create an identity for the brand and also how your consumers actually want to be communicated with.
Are you a one-stop shop? In other words, when somebody comes to you, a realtor, or there's a surf shop owner down the street here who I know is thinking about that, do you have a to-do list for them from, finding the right equipment to getting the right branding on message, or are you just the creative strategy side of it? How do you go about it?
Good question. It really depends on the size of the show, and it really depends on the individual's goal. When I was shooting Off My Hinge, I did have a full production team because we wanted to make content that could be transferable over time, and we also wanted to have video content. A lot of podcasts don't really require that. So it really just depends on the scale of it. I kind of have a freelance team at my beck and call, if you will, if we do decide we need to shoot, rather than just use the amazing technology we have to be able to record ourselves with computers and with high quality microphones and things like that. But if someone comes to me and says, I'm thinking of starting a podcast, I always kind of like to do what I call like a dry run. So, we get a little bit of equipment and we kind of see, okay, is what we have the quality that you're looking for? Is it meeting your business goals? Is it meeting your customer retention goals? Or do we need to expand? So that kind of goes hand in hand with creative strategy. I hope I answered your question. I think we kind of almost prototype this situation before we expand with more resources, just to make sure they're necessary.
Yeah, but it sounds like you're really the podcast guru. So anyone who needs one, who wants to find one, wants to find you. And we'll put this in our show notes. Tell us, how does someone find you at Off My Hinge and creative strategy?
I have a website where you can kind of look at my portfolio of work, abbygoodin.com. I also have an Instagram profile, which is Off My Hinge Podcast. You can find me on LinkedIn, Abigail Goodin, creative strategist and producer. And you could probably also find me across various other social medias from people who follow my show who have reposted. So maybe even on TikTok, you could find me.
Fantastic. And we're going to find you again on some of our other shows here at the Daily News Network because you're on the cutting edge of where it's going. The podcasting business is booming and you're doing it exceptionally well. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks so much for your time, Brian. Great to chat.
Biz by Pro supports individuals through the acquisition process in many ways. First and foremost, we can find a business for you. You come to us and you give us the parameters geographically, size, like maybe 2 million in revenue, and maybe an area you want to be a plumbing contractor, and we'll go find that for you. I think really the most important thing from Biz by Pro is after you find that business, working through the valuation, how much you're paying for it. As I always say, you don't make money when you sell, you make money when you buy.